I am Alastair, also known as Beard on the Block. I am VP of Marketing at WWVentures. We're a Web3 and crypto venture capital firm focused on building communities. So we call it social capital. When we invest in a project, we actively work with them to build and grow, engage and sustain their communities. So it's very fitting that we have a panel on how to create a thriving and engaged Web3 community today. And I'm joined by 4 awesome and amazing speakers. So we have Bobby. I'm not going in order because this is the order on my sheet. You're all sat out of place. Didn't communicate that. Community, not communication. So we have Bobby, Community Manager and Builder Extraordinaire. Ariane Murphy, CMO at Forcefield. Andy Alexander from NFT Rebels. And Thibault Perreard. From Bifrost. How do you pronounce it properly? I should have asked.
I'm so used to it being sort of damaged completely, so it's okay. Thibault Perreard, it's fine. Works.
Cool.
The job.
Sounds good. So we're obviously here to talk all about community, and it's awesome that we have a community of people in the crowd to witness this. So let's just have some icebreakers here. We'll go right to left for everyone watching. What does community mean to you?
I think community is the most important asset
for a project, especially in Web3, because communities can break or make your project. They are very powerful, and I think if you need to pick one important element to focus on, that's community to be.
Community to me is involvement, being accepted, and being part of something bigger than yourself, with one common goal. And everyone fighting from the trenches for the same thing. That's what it is to me, anyway.
Cool. Can you guys hear us okay back there? Because I was there earlier and I couldn't hear anything. Okay, good. So for me, community is more than just users and followers. And at just very high level, it involves developers, investors, and fans of your project. So I think it's very, very important to not just think of your community as just people that are following you on social media, but just those that have a sense of belonging. You're creating a community that want to follow you and want to be very, very involved in what you're doing. So it's important to be building trust and creating a sense of, as I said, belonging and purpose. So yeah, in just a few words.
Yeah, I think everybody's sort of covered most points. I'd say has to be an alignment between sort of the protocol, the team building, and the community behind that. So, I mean, without the community, the protocol is just, worthless. So I think we'll be speaking about different things from tokenomics and the community's sort of active role. But for us is really pushing on decentralization and giving each community member, whether it's investors to users to other partners on the protocol, to have ownership and some sort of value alignment there. So that's sort of community for us.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sorry, you were about to...
I was going to say, it's good vibes too.
Yeah.
Someone you can have a drink with and it's going to be fun, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic. There are alternatives there. So we actually had a quick call before the conference here to cover some topics, and we have some really interesting things written down in my terrible handwriting. I should have been a doctor because I can't actually read it. But Ariane, you mentioned a book called Get Together that you've been reading and really enjoyed. Can you tell our audience a little bit about this?
Yeah, of course. I don't know how many people have read that book, but I definitely recommend it. Get Together. It's a very orange book, so you'll recognize it easily at Waterstones. So I think the most important thing that I've learnt from that book is that community, you have to create a space not for the community. I think that's a mistake that many people make, many projects make, not for the community, but with the community. And what the book meant by that, and for me it was really an enlightening moment, or just really a realization that as you're building this community from scratch, let's say, you're trying to create leaders, you're trying to create people that can help you scale. If you try to control the way your community grows, it's not going to work. If you're trying to keep that very, very tight tight-knit and trying to figure out strategies of how you and your team can grow your community, it's, as I said, it's not going to work. So what you're trying to do is really find ways to give, empower your community, these early members, these early ambassadors, and allow them to have the tools to go and find other ambassadors and other community members. So yeah, very, very important to be thinking, how can I give these people the tools to scale that in a network, with a network effect. So it sounds very, very obvious and maybe very basic, but I think giving them the messaging documents, the brand guidelines, do workshops with them to figure out, okay, these are the activities, meetups that you need to be doing, but just really let go. I think that's very, very important. We love to control and we need to be less controlling.
I 100% agree with that. Like the growth mechanics of trying to build something on your own are very limited. There's only so many hours in the day, only so much time you can spend with each individual. But if you empower them, then you get that knock-on network effect, which becomes a very quick multiplier. Bobby, what's your secret sauce of building communities and growing them?
Consistency. Turning up every day on Twitter Spaces. As soon as I wake up, getting on there, sometimes spending 24 hours in Twitter Spaces in one go, and making sure that everyone that comes through is heard, listened to, and there are other people in there as well that are also, like you said, ambassadors that are bringing other people in. But the main thing is consistency. Sometimes I wake up and I turn on my Twitter Spaces and I have no one in for about 20 minutes. One person will come in and then we'll chat like we're just having a cup of coffee together, and then a few more people will come in, and then just like you would hang out with friends. Because that's what you want. You want people to be, comfortable, like they want to be loose and they're easily malleable. Then you can have a great conversation, onboard them to whatever you're doing. But yeah, if you don't show up, then they're going to be wondering where you are. For example, there's been a project that came out a month ago. The reveal hasn't even come out yet. It's an NFT project. Yet that community is strong, but no one's showing up. It makes no sense to me, but they show up. Just because the founders don't show up, the community shows up, and that's what you want. And that was only because the guy who runs that project showed up every day for hours and hours and hours. And I think only had like 4 or 5 days off over the past 9 months when it came to Twitter Spaces. So just turning up is the main thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a paradigmatic change between Web 2 and Web 3. In terms of building community and community almost being your marketing as well. That's what drives it forwards, and it's no longer sort of force feeding information and getting it as far and wide as possible, hoping that someone reads it and goes, oh, that's interesting. It's about bringing them in and building that journey together and having them as part of it.
Yeah, sure.
I was going to say, yeah, the way I got into a community was by bringing my talents, and that was only because someone pulled that out of me. I said, "Oh yeah, I went to drama school." They said, "Oh, do you sing?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." And they go, "Oh, go on, sing." So I did. I'm not doing it now, but that was the case. They heard something, they went, "Oh yeah, can you do that for us?" And then that's how everyone started engaging. And it's the same with anything, whether you're an artist, a photographer, a musician, even like poetry, anything. You bring something to the table as a person. So as long as you can figure what each person's thing is that they bring and bring that out of them, you've got a community.
I agree. Annie, what's your secret success?
So I think it's the important thing is the mindset shift, right? Realizing that we have overused the word community in the space. It's the buzzword. It's something that people want to hear. So all projects talk about how important the community is. But I think it's important also to understand what it actually is and what it should mean, because it's not the number of followers or Discord is not a community. The thing is that the features can be copied, blockchains can be forked, but the community can't be both. So we're talking about real, genuine relationships here. And you want people who want to be there. And I think the secret sauce is, for me at least, is where you create the environment where the community members create those relationships, not only with the team and the project, but between themselves. When they come and consistently show up to have coffee together because they enjoy it, and they don't necessarily have to talk about your project, about your service or product all the time. Just being there and having that experience and having that, you know, fun and that bond between themselves will actually, you know, drive things through. And also empowering the community is important, as already mentioned, because I think in Web3, that whole concept of changing roles and having the community members at the stage as rock stars instead of yourself is very important, because they, once you empower them, they bring in their strengths and their skills, and then you go through the journey together and you build whatever you're building together, because they will tell you what they need. So you will end up, instead of building something and then chasing people and asking them to use your product, you will build something that they are already looking forward to and impatiently waiting for.
Yeah, it's a bit like downstairs. There's an NFT gallery. Each project needs a gallery of NFPs, non-fungible people, to drive them forwards, and that was really cheesy. I've just realised how bad that was. Thibault, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Jesus, that was terrible. Thibault, what's your kind of secret sauce? What do you kind of perceive to be driving that community side?
Yeah, sure. I mean, communities have been really difficult for us because we're not an NFT project. We're a DeFi project. We're a cross-chain liquid staking solution built on, you know, Polkadot and Kusama. So it's been quite complicated because from a product angle, you have obviously a few things to take into account. I mean, at the end of the day, your community are your users, from, you know, your retail to, you know, I would say partnering protocols where you want utility, and then you've got your VCs. So you've got to make sure that there's some sort of value alignment there in terms of the tokenomics, which we're obviously continuously sort of evolving. They have to change to make sense down the line. But utility is obviously fundamental for a DeFi protocol. You can have a community, sure, but if there's no value accrue at the end, then there's absolutely no sense there. So we've done a few things on that front. There's you know, being onboarding ambassadors to create that sort of community feel. There's loyalty programs with launching of products, creating the utility for new launches. And then we're seeing more and more changes in tokenomics around revenue of the protocol being shared back to people who are showing loyalty. You know, if you're staking basically your token for longer, you'll have governance power as well, and you'll have some sort of a say on the protocol and the future roadmap on the product side. So it's been quite interesting. And there's also, on the sort of Polkadot Kusama side, there's everybody's building on top of the same layer zero. So there is obviously sort of cross-community sharing, where we're building a token where there is utility on other protocols there. So it's been quite interesting. We've been able to leverage rather than working solo like some NFT projects we're seeing out there.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of touching on what Bobby and Annie said as well. Building a true community is not about vanity metrics, as I call them. Like, you've got 100,000 followers on Twitter, but each post gets 2 likes. You've got 150k in your Discord, but there's 3 people that actually talk. It's about building those meaningful relationships that can power it forwards. And Ariane, like when we last spoke, you mentioned that taking some sort of traditional learnings from traditional finance and seeing your token holders, and yes, they're not an investment vehicle, there's no promise of future value, leave us alone SEC, but these people do view themselves as shareholders in the project and treat them as such. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So my actual background before crypto, and actually in the company I was working at before, I managed the comms throughout IPO. This was the first company that IPO'd on the London Stock Exchange, and I was part of that process. So very, very interesting. And I think there's some very key learnings from how public companies work and communicate with their shareholders. Some of the things, these things that we can learn as crypto projects. And I think, again, to my point earlier, we forget about our community being shareholders and investors. 90% in some cases are investors. So the transparency that needs to happen is key. So we need to be over-communicating with these people, not just treat them as followers, okay? Because otherwise you're not building that trust, you're not building that purpose. Public companies have to make market updates whenever there's any minor changes. They cannot commit to any KPIs on growth or any financial projections, any user projections. They have to be super, super careful. And I think that sort of scrutiny and that being very aware of what you're communicating is key. And then not necessarily over-communicating, but being very, very clear, transparent, and consistent with your messaging with these project community members. So I think for me, that's something that we need to get better at. I've seen many scenarios where community members are just neglected. They're constantly chasing founders. Guys, what's happening? You said this was happening. Delayed, and they go quiet. That's not the way to go. If we want to build trust, we need to be communicating. So I think, that's something very important that I hope we can definitely get better at.
Agreed. And the next sort of topic I want to just touch on very briefly is sort of looking beyond your direct users and token holders and building communities outside of that. Like I was talking with a friend of mine who's recently started working with a project called Reputable Health, which they're trying to create like a data marketplace based on individuals' health data. So there's a big draw for the science community to get involved in that. And then that becomes, part of your community. You start onboarding them into things. Where do you think that projects, particularly ones that like within DeFi or I guess sort of potentially less on the NFT side of things, but how can we get more people on and start building that community of users and non-Web3 natives?
Well, I'm currently working with a layer 1 blockchain called Ectochain, and there's going to be various different branches off Ectochain, like NFT projects will help plant trees. But one of the main things they've decided to do is fly 10 people out to Bali next month. I'm one of them, really excited. And
it's a tough life.
Party on a yacht for a week. We can't all do that, but
how do you survive?
Yeah, well, apply. You can come to Bali and party on the island. They've got an island, and you can just come and party with us and chill and have go to the mastermind and everything. But it's that sort of laid-back lifestyle that everyone really wants, isn't it? Like if you can give something to someone that they haven't got already, then that's the way in. Everyone doesn't like going to the office. We found that out from COVID. We like working from home. So if we can give people experiences that they engage with and they actually want to do and they actually want to go there, and like I said, if you get loose and you can chill, people are going to be easier to talk to. And you ain't got to worry about all this, I'm at a networking event, you're just there on a boat, having a drink. Oh yeah, that's coming up. Oh, do you want to invest in this? Yeah, sound. I've seen it happen in front of my eyes. Like, it happens. So just making people relaxed and because it's a very stressful life these days. We're bombarded with nonsense all the time, and people just want to let go of that and have a nice time and live the life like that.
Yeah. Thibault, what's your take?
Yeah, I won't be partying with you, mate. I'd like to, though. But I think on our ends, I think Polkadot, there's obviously specific parachains which are trying to be quite niche, and they can onboard their very niche sort of communities with their expertise. But I think in terms of your point, adoption and how that's going to take place in the future, we're working towards that. I think it's obviously very difficult with what's going on in the market as well, and certain teams going in and out. But I do think what will happen is what we're seeing now in terms of projects, there's going to be some sort of consolidation, and then these sort of native projects will be embedded in more sort of user UI-friendly platforms. So everything will happen in the background, and the end user, the retail will be able to sort of not know what's going on, but leverage off that. And I think that's how we're going to see that in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of adoption.
Yeah, that's key. I was speaking with Dan Hammer, who was on the panel beforehand. They're one of our portfolio projects that we invested into. And last night on Yavin as well from Cointelligence. And we were sort of separate conversations, but exactly the same thing in that if you want to onboard the gaming community and then suddenly to do anything, you have to connect your MetaMask, 99.9% of them are going to disappear and never come back. But if you build something that's actually fun, user-friendly, a good game to play, and then they discover NFTs through that, then all of a sudden you're building the Web3 community via the Web2 entry platform. Which leads me onto a wonderful little segue here. Let's talk about tooling, because I think every single one of us brought this up when we spoke before the conference, in that there are, what's the word I'm looking for? Compromises in everything, because you look at your, I guess, traditional Web3 community, Discord, Twitter, and Telegram still seems to be a bombardment in group chats there. Where do you kind of see the future of the online communities being held? Like we mentioned that LinkedIn's growing a little bit, so I'd love to get your thoughts on that, Annie.
So I think that, we had all this kind of, progress in the Web3 space, right? Before 2017 or early 2017, people were doing their communities and ICOs in Slack. Then they moved to Telegram. Now most of them are on Discord. And I think that's another element, right? It doesn't really matter where it is. Like, what's important is that magic that happens. I mean, the platform is just a place where they gather together. Twitter Spaces is another sort of development of audio, socials, etc. But I think when we look at the communities, and especially for other brands who are getting into Web3, not targeting Web3 crypto native audience for mass adoption, I think they need to look into what that audience is and what they care about and what they already use, and just use that toolkit or that space for them in order to eliminate that additional barrier, having them segue from one place to another, learn other places, like moving people to Discord if they don't like it or haven't used it, while they already use another social media. It doesn't make sense to me. You just, it's all about experiences. So I guess we just need to observe and see which new platforms will come into place to deepen those experiences and give better relationship building capabilities. Like the metaverse is not there yet, but once it starts getting there, probably that's another place to look into, okay, what kind of special experiences, what kind of extra things I can, provide as a place for the community, and then explore that. But the place should be very suitable and should resonate with the community, and it will change depending on who you are targeting. Sports people may prefer another platform, gamers may prefer Discord, etc., etc. So I don't think we should look at Web3 community space or toolkit just as being one popular one and just without thinking too much navigating to it. We should have the community members as a guideline on where to take them.
I was just going to say very, very quickly. I think a conversation that's been happening. So I advise a number of companies in Web3, and across the board, we're getting more and more questions about the metaverse. So using spatial and using other platforms like that. And I think it's still early to say whether people would like to gather there in masses. So it's a big open question, and I'd encourage actually everyone here to start testing it. Maybe doing like award ceremonies, some exciting stuff on these platforms, and see how the community reacts, because they may actually love it or not. For me personally, it doesn't really work because my computing power just cannot handle it. My computer goes in shutdown mode. But yeah, let's see where this goes. And I think there's a lot of exciting channels out there that we can start leveraging in future. I don't know if Discord is the solution long term. I keep hearing lots of I don't like it. So yeah, let's see.
I don't like Discord. But it's a tool. It works. It's a layer that's far down. If you can get in through Twitter, I came through Clubhouse and then went into Twitter Spaces, and that's where you're going to get the trickle of people in, and they can go through the funnels into your Discord, whatever. Get a community manager who knows Discord to do that, but trying to manage Twitter Spaces and Discord at the same time, it's a nightmare. They're two different things altogether. And everyone, obviously we're trying to push into TikTok and Instagram at the moment, but everyone's been rugged hard from Instagram. There's been so many shitty projects that have rugged people of all their Ethereum or Sol or whatever it is. Like, even TikTok's had a lot of rugs on there too. So people since the bull market when we've gone into the bear, people have lost trust in like traditional Instagram, TikTok kind of things. So
Yeah, the Instagram influencers that were calling for USDT to $5. Probably not good financial advice there. Thibault, what are you using to build your community sort of away from IRL events?
I agree with all the panelists, actually. I mean, I head strategy, so I'm not really in the details of the community management, but obviously I think having, a strong team of ambassadors, and they can use whatever channel they think is best. We've seen on Polkadot a few projects building sort of virtual realities, which are very easy and accessible in order to have different parachains sort of bring in their community, have a global calendar which different communities can leverage off, jump into this parachain's community call, etc., which has been great for us. But we are also seeing projects who are integrating sort of wallet-to-wallet communication, linking that to your Telegram, and then also the social sides of it. So I think there's going to be some sort of integrations of 3 or 4 different channels into one, which will basically all be integrated and just facilitate our work. Because as Bobby said, Twitter Spaces is the right place to go. Discord is very niche to your community, but if you want new onboarding, you're going to have to go through Twitter Spaces. So it's a bit of a tough one there.
Yeah, I think there needs to be kind of funnels for onboarding people into your community as well. So if you've got developers, make it easy for them to find the developer content, put them in touch with your developer relations person. If they want to know about tokenomics, easy for them to find that information. Then once they're in, they can expand their knowledge. But the more clicks, I think you lose like 90% of users per click that they have to go to get that information. So if you can have it like, I want to know about this, that's what I'm most interested in, and straight away they're in there, then you've already got a hook in, you've already got their attention. And I think like a lot of it, sort of looping back to traditional models, is looking at it kind of like a sales funnel. You try and get people as wide as possible, your Twitter Spaces, your tweets, but then you need to get them that step further. And the easier we can make that for everyone, the quicker we can build communities of people that are engaged and join a thriving community in Web3. How am I for time?